Nice to have your company here on the Kiwi Football Fix. And I must say a massive thank you to Rodrigo, the show producer, and to Fast Fred de Jong, who managed to pull things together last week in my absence. I gave them a bit of a stitch-up, a hospital pass if you like, and they managed to do things just absolutely beautifully without me. Maybe I've made myself redundant, I don't know. Let's find out. We've got a pretty busy show today with me back behind the desk and in the hot seat. We have a chat with the voice of football in Aotearoa, New Zealand, Jason Pine. A little bit of talk ahead of Jordan and Uzbekistan, the All Whites back in action for the first time in 2022. Remember, it's a massive year for the national side. Oceania World Cup qualification in March, an intercontinental playoff if they get through that, and then the World Cup in Qatar in late 2022. So we talk all of that with Jason Pine, but before we do that, we've got the man with the best hair in all of the A-League, Wellington Phoenix backup goalkeeper who's been given an extended stay in the goalkeeping position, Alex Paulsen. Alex, live from Australia, great to see you, mate. How are you?
No, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no dramas at all. How is your first taste of professional football treating you?
To be fair, it's pretty nerve-wracking. I'm a very nervous person, but at the same time, I'm kind of, I'm so glad with this, opportunity that I've been given, and I'm, happy that I'm able to kind of, prove to the boys that, I'm a goalkeeper here that, kind of just wants to prove themselves.
Well, you've been in the first team mix for around about a month now, Alex, seeing as Ollie Sale has been out for a period of time with that hip flexor injury. What else have you learnt about yourself and about the A-League in general, seeing as you've played, 3 A-League games and 1 FFA Cup match?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like, Oliver Sale, he's been pretty much like a big brother to me. So anything that, I need in terms of like advice, I kind of ask him. And he's very nice in that sense to, help me out in that way because, I'm always still trying to, learn and get as much as advice from, not only my peers, but, from the coach's perspective, what they want from me, during the game. So I feel like, the first, 3 or 4 games that I've, had, I'm just trying to make sure that, I do what's best for the team.
Is there a noticeable step up? Because when I think about you and your recent career, you're obviously named the MVP of the last ever ISPS Handa Men's Premiership season. So you did very, very well there. What's the step up like between that and the A-League?
Well, I feel like it's, I feel the difference is obviously, with the National League, it's a lot of people who are amateur players and also semi-pro players, but, they have a lot of experience, with a couple of people that, for example, like Hamish Watson or Sam Smith, some of those other boys that have, played overseas or, had a lot of experience in the National League, that kind of creates that professionalism in the National League. But I feel like the difference as well in the A-League is that, these are professionals. You've got people like Daniel Sturridge who are, who's coming in and, trying to, prove a point to the A-League and, play with, perfect glory. So I feel like the step up is, they've got heaps of professionals, and then also it's the intensity. It's very quick compared to the National League.
Take us back to your first appearance for the Wellington Phoenix, up against Sydney FC. Ollie Sale goes down injured. You're sitting on the bench. As a backup goalkeeper, you're probably thinking, well, I'm not really going to get an opportunity. Then all of a sudden, you're up, warming up on the sideline, and you're thrust into the action. Tell us about the experience. Tell us about the emotions that you were feeling at that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, when Ollie went down, I think he took a goal kick and he was limping and his hip flexor, my heart dropped. I was like, oh no, not Ollie. Surely not. He's injured. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I knew that I was prepared, and I kind of before every game, I always do my analysis before on the players, and nothing changes from when I was a number 1 to being number 2 on the bench. So I feel like I was prepared to go on, and even though it was in the first 15 minutes or the first half to go out there, and regardless of where we are on the table or what minute of the game is, we have to do my job. So I felt like I was prepared to come on and make an impact.
I wanted to talk a little bit about you and your history as well, Alex, if you don't mind, because If my research hasn't let me down, I know that you've got a South African father, a mother from Namibia. You're obviously growing up in New Zealand, yet you turned down rugby and you want to play football. How does that work? Because New Zealand, South Africa and Namibia are pretty much rugby strongholds. How did you evade capture from rugby union?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's pretty funny because I think my mom was, she was like, "Nah, you're not playing rugby because, it's a bit of a scary sport. Not gonna lie, the impacts, people, going in and at each other. It's very scary, especially for a mother to see her child going in every game, at rugby to almost get hit. So it's very scary. So she felt maybe rugby's not for you.
And rugby wasn't for you, but neither was football in the early days. You actually played a lot of futsal.
Yeah. So I played, me and my brother, Adam Paulsen, we played a lot of futsal when we were growing up. It was actually our first sport. It was, futsal all the way through until we were about, I think, 16 for me when I had to come down from Auckland to Scots College. And honestly, it's probably one of the best sports to, improve because I feel like you're always on the ball, you're always, connected with your, teammates, you're always involved. And that's how I feel, a lot of people need to grow from that aspect is playing futsal and then branching off into football. Because if you look at the greats, you got Ronaldinho and Neymar, they all started from, street football, which is pretty much futsal. So it's one of those things where, you kind of want to, learn and aspire to and, kind of follow in their footsteps.
So let me get this right. You didn't play football, like 11-a-side football on a field until what, the age of 16?
So I actually, when I started in goal, when I was in Onyahanga Sports in Auckland when I was in 13th grade. So that was my my first actual season of me being in goal in an 11-a-side football game.
Wow.
But before that, I was just playing futsal and being an outfield player, but it wasn't anything serious. So it was mainly when I was 13 where I actually started playing football as a goalkeeper in like the 11-a-side football game.
I've got to ask, mate, the hair. It's probably the best hair in the A-League. I don't know if it's the best hair in world football, but look, I'll do some research and I'll do some scouring of pictures and vision that I can get in here at Sky Sport. But look, it's got to be top 5. What's the secret? Because a lot of people, including my next guest, Jason Pine, would love to know. What's the secret to keeping that glorious full head of hair?
Well, I don't know. I always use like a type of shea butter, like an African, type of shea butter moisturizer that kind of just, moisturizes my hair and keeps it a bit frizzy. So that could be a bit of a cheat code for some other people to use, especially Piney.
I think Piney's probably going to have to get a wig at some point. But I mean, so there's no perming going on. It's all natural.
No, all natural, all from my mother's side. So yeah, it's all good.
It's incredible. As incredible as your goalkeeping feats for the Wellington Phoenix. Alex Paulsen, it's been a real pleasure catching up with you on the Kiwi Football Fix today, mate. Go well and continue to perform between those sticks for us, eh?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your time.
And we go from the man with the best hairstyle in all of New Zealand to the man with, well, the best chrome dome in New Zealand. The voice of football is, of course, this man, Jason Pine. Piney, how are you, mate?
Great, yeah, great to hear from Alex Paulsen. And you're right. I mean, that's a haircut for the ages, one that mere mortals like you and I can only dream of, Goran.
Well, I mean, I think back to the days when I was in my late teens and I had long blonde hair down to my shoulders. Of course, I dyed it because my natural hair colour is brown. But look, when you were 19, I'm sure you had a wonderful head of hair as well.
I did, yes. And I had a mullet. It lasted sort of into the early 20s before in nature took its course. But yeah, gee, like, I mean, no haircut can disguise the fact that Alex Paulsen's doing a wonderful job, not just standing in for Ollie Sale, but actually putting a fairly firm stake in the ground as to who the number one goalkeeper at the Phoenix might be.
Yeah, and what it proves, Piney, is that we've got enormous depth in the goalkeeping position when it comes to the All Whites. You know, Alex Paulsen, he's a former under-17 rep at national level, and it's just a matter of time before he gets his chance. Mind you, he's got to wait for Marinovic and Vald and Sale and a whole bunch of other guys to fall over before he gets a chance. Now look, the reason we've got you on the Kiwi Football Fix today, Piney, is to talk a little bit about the All Whites. They're back into action against Jordan and Uzbekistan, and while a lot of us would want to see them build and improve on the results of late last year, Curacao, Bahrain, the Gambia, I want to know from you first and foremost, what is this window about? Is it about building on those results, or is it about blooding new faces for what comes up in March and the Oceania World Cup qualifying window?
Well, if I'm allowed to sit on the fence, I'd say it's both of those things probably. Let's take the first one first, not to be too political about it, but the first one first. I think they have to build on what they did at the back end of last year. You know, consecutive wins for Danny Hayes' team against the sides you mentioned, and good performances really across the board in all of them. Starting to build what looks to be a very solid kind of first 11 in most people's eyes, but also being able to bring players in to debut and also to play pretty significant roles in some fairly key positions. But you're right, with March, you know, rolling around, and we know it's well documented that the first couple of games of that March Oceania qualifying fall outside of the FIFA window, meaning that it's highly unlikely that anybody from outside of Australasia will be available for those games. There are going to be the odd one or two whose club decides for whatever reason, yes, you can go, but really we're looking at a team of largely Australasian-based players. But having said that, he's only brought two in, Danny. He's brought Tim Payne and Clayton Lewis in, so it's not like he's gone en masse to the Wellington Phoenix and the other A-League players and said, right, you're all coming. So you can see that it's a mix of both. I think, you know, he has such limited time together with this bunch of players, Danny Hay, that he can't waste any opportunity. He can't waste any chance he has to build cohesiveness in key positions, to have the likes of Bell and Singh and Stamanic play together as often as they can, to have Chris Wood, you know, play alongside Eli Just and Callum McCowart. He would have loved, I'm sure, to have Costa Barbarouses there this time, to work out exactly what he's doing at right back. That's the one position that he hasn't really nailed down in his first 11, and to give a lot of players more opportunities to impress him, because we're in the situation now, Goran, where there are more good players than there are places in a 23-man squad. So every game, and in fact every training session, is a chance for these guys to put their hand up, say to Danny Hay, I'm here for you in 2022. I want to be part of what's a really exciting year.
Yeah, so for you, Piney, what are the positions or the areas of contention as we head into this very important year for the All Whites?
Right back is the main one. That is the one position that nobody has put their hand up and said, that is my role. Nico Kerwin's played well there, and we saw him score that goal against Bahrain. But of course, right back is predominantly a defensive position. We've seen Kelvin Kalua have a crack there. Others in the past, the likes of Dane Ingham, played there in the Olympic Games. But nobody has come in and really said, that is my position. So I think this is a massive two-game window for Tim Payne. He, for me, is the most obvious choice at right back. Even though he's playing these days as centre-back for the Phoenix, he is the best right back that Danny Hay has at his disposal for me. So I think, you know, Tim Payne has got a great opportunity to grab that right back spot for his own. I think there's also still a question mark about exactly who partners Chris Wood up front, and that maybe largely depends on the formation that Danny chooses to play, whether it's a diamond midfield with just one alongside Wood up top, or whether it's a three-man midfield, Wood and a couple of wide attacking players. Either way, I'm not sure anybody's really nailed that down yet either. As I say, would love to have seen Costa Barbarouses in this window. I think he would have been given a great chance to play alongside Chris Wood up top. But Callum McCowart and Eli Just have the opportunity again to push their cases, you know, as to the players who might partner Chris Wood, who we know is going to be there as the point of the arrow. So those are the ones for me. And I guess you'd look around the pitch, and the happy thing is that there is competition in all these places now. Players have come in, they've been given opportunities. Another chance in this window for Francis de Vries, no Libby Kakachi. So de Vries has an opportunity at left back, but Dalton Wilkins is there now as well. Clayton Lewis, what role does he play? He's never played under Danny Hay before. Where does he fit into this side? So yeah, lots of really nice little conundrums for Danny Hay to solve over the next couple of games.
Yeah, there's lots of depth right across the board, but you've hit the nail on the head, Piney. Right back is the issue. Now, Tim Payne is one name that has been mentioned, but what about Bill Tuiloma? because there's a guy who has played a lot of central defence, but he has been mentioned as well as a possibility filling in that right back spot. So is that the way you see it? Maybe it's a shootout between Tuiloma and Payne over the next two matches?
Yeah, and I think it's also the word that you just used there, fill in at right back. I think that's what Bill Tuiloma would really be. Even though Tim Payne's been playing centre back, we know he had a season at right back for the Wellington Phoenix and was exceptional there. Really had the gas to get up and down. We know he's got the defensive capability. And the other thing that Tim Payne has is a big fan in Danny Hay. They've worked together for a long, long time in various different teams, and I think Danny really likes the way that Tim Payne goes about things. But Bill Tuiloma, a very versatile player. You know, he could play pretty much anywhere across the back four. If push came to shove, he could probably play in a number 6 role as well. Very versatile player. So it's very interesting to me that while all the other positions seem to have or most of them anyway, seem to have an incumbent, right back is just one that for whatever reason it hasn't come to pass. So yeah, I think Payne, Tuiloma may well get a chance to play there. As I say, Kelvin Kalu is on this trip as well. So yeah, it'll be one to watch over the next 180 minutes to see who puts their hand up in that position.
What's the likelihood that Ufuk Talay might actually come to the party here and say, well, we've managed to recruit Wooten, the former Manchester United academy man. He could play centre-back alongside Laws in the heart of the Wellington Phoenix defence, pushing Tim Payne out onto the right full time for the Knicks. Do you think that might be something that they look at, just to give Tim a bit more game time in a very important year in that right back position?
It's a great point, and I'm sure Danny Hay would love to see it. I'm sure that's what Danny Hay wants to see. He wants Tim Payne playing right back as often as he can in 2022. And unfortunately for him, he can't have any direct influence on that because he's not Tim's club coach. I'm sure he's talked to Ufuk Talay about it and either directly or indirectly made it clear to him that that would be a wonderful thing for the national side. Interestingly enough, I had a chance to speak to Tim Payne just before the team took off to Australia, and he was adamant that he's now a centre-back for club and for country, which I thought was a really interesting comment from Tim Payne, that he sees his future at centre-back. I mean, it's nice to be so versatile and to be wanted in lots of different positions, but it was interesting to hear from the man himself that he sees himself as a centre-back. That's not to say, of course, that he won't play right back if Danny Hay wants him to, because, of course, he will. With the Phoenix, Ufuk Talay's got to pick the best team to win football matches, and with Wooten coming in now, he does have a bit of flexibility there at centre-back. But let's not forget, he's got two pretty handy right-backs already. Louis Fenton, who was Herculean the other night against Western United, and Callum Elliott still to come back in as well. So it's not as though he doesn't have competent right-backs there. But yeah, I think if you hovered above the whole thing and looked at it from an holistic point of view, you'd say, you know what, the best thing for New Zealand football is Tim Payne playing at right back for his club side. Whether that comes to pass, not too sure, but it's certainly another one to look out for in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, so let's do a little bit of crystal ball gazing if we could, Piney, just before we let you go here. The Oceania World Cup qualifying campaign. Who looms as the All Whites' biggest threat when they come up against somebody in a final? Who's it likely to be?
Such a good question, because these Pacific Island sides just haven't played for so long, and you can look at the rankings and say, okay, well, who is, who's highly ranked, and really that doesn't mean a heck of a lot. You might look at Fiji and say, well, I've got Roy Krishna. Any team with Roy Krishna is going to be a team that can clearly score goals and therefore might trouble you. So, Fiji are one. They're in New Zealand's pool, of course. So New Zealand will play them in a pool game, one of those first two matches before the reinforcements arrive. So they might, get a look at a team that'll turn up against them in the, in the final later on. So regardless of who it is, I'm of the view that New Zealand, whether it's an A-League based side mainly or the full, brute force of Wood and Singh and Reid and Marinovic and everybody, I don't care. Danny Hay's got 50 to 60 players to choose from, and any combination of those players should comfortably be good enough to beat the best Oceania side. They're all professional players. They have been, given the opportunity under Danny Hay to develop into a cohesive side that plays a certain style. So, look, I while this might seem both a little bit naive and perhaps a little bit arrogant, I would expect New Zealand to go in there and completely boss those sides in March and really say to the CONCACAF team who they will eventually face in June. Yes, we might be coming out of Oceania, but we're a decent side. We're a side that will be a challenge for you. And in fact, we back ourselves to beat you, Panama, to beat you, Costa Rica, to beat you, Canada, whoever it is. And that all starts with, in my view, comfortably accounting for whoever it is that comes out of Oceania in the latter stages of that qualifying tournament.
All right, I'm happy with that. We're basically through to that intercontinental playoff. Thanks for that, Piney. You've filled me with confidence, mate, and I'm sure all the viewers out there of the Kiwi Football Fix as well. So when we get to that CONCACAF playoff, that one shot takes all, whatever you want to call it, the one shot for glory, who's it going to be against? Because it's really tight in that CONCACAF standings. You've got Canada, USA, Mexico, who else? Panama. You can throw a doily or a handkerchief over all of them. Costa Rica's hanging out. Who's looking likely for you? Who would you want to play?
Well, yeah, that's probably a better way of looking at it. First of all, you look at who you don't want to play. And in there, you don't want to play the USA or Mexico because they're clearly the two best sides in CONCACAF, perennial World Cup attendees. And really, the two sides that should clear out from the top of a group that's got 14 games in it when you're playing home and away against 7 other sides. At present, Canada are top. They've had a really good start to the World Cup qualifying, but there are still 6 games to go. And so, what I hope is that the USA and Mexico, in the hopefully in the first 3 of those games, which are in this window, or if not then in the next window, which has the other 3 games, clear out from the rest, and we don't have to worry about Mexico, and we don't have to worry about the United States. I reckon from the other sides that New Zealand would back themselves against any of them. Yes, Canada have been playing well, but haven't been to a World Cup for a heck of a long time. Panama, Costa Rica, they present their own challenges. But I tell you what, when you think about a Peru 4 years ago or a Mexico 4 years before that, I'd take a Panama or a Costa Rica in a one-off game at a neutral venue over them any day. So, yeah, I think it'll be one of those two. I think it'll be Panama or Costa Rica. I don't, as I say, if you want to look at this with positivity, you expect Mexico and USA to clear out and take 2 of the top 3 automatic spots, and perhaps Canada, after their good start, to sneak into the 3rd one. So then you are talking about one of those 2 sides. The others there, Jamaica possibly could make a run. They've been to a World Cup, but El Salvador, Honduras. Do you expect to see them there? Not sure. It feels like a Panama or a Costa Rica to me.
And just finally, Piney, and thanks so much for your time, as always, on the Kiwi Football Fix. Are you going to be at the World Cup?
Well, I mean, I talked about the pool of 55 players before that Danny Hay had at his disposal. If you're suggesting that I might be on the fringes of that 55...
No.
Yeah, look, obviously, look, to go to a World Cup would be amazing. Players, obviously, it's the pinnacle for them. And I think for those of us who work in the football media, of course, trips like that are trips of a lifetime. And I've been fortunate enough to have been to one. I went to South Africa in 2010, the last time the All Whites were there, and it was a wonderful experience. The best thing I've ever done in my work career. So, sure, look, if New Zealand are in the pot when the World Cup draw is made for Qatar, November and December, I think in goalkeeping parlance, Goran, I'll make myself nice and big, and if I can do that, then who knows? Maybe there will be a plane ticket right down the back of the plane on an Emirates airline flight into Qatar in the early part of November.
Mate, I have no idea how you survived 2010 in South Africa. The Vuvuzelas just absolutely hammering you from all sides, and not to mention you were hanging out with Miles Davis for about a month.
Yeah, a perfect storm for sure. But yeah, no, I live to tell the tale, and there were a few tales to tell, I can tell you that.
Well, maybe they can wait for another edition of the Kiwi Football Fix. Jason Pine, as always, thanks so much for your time, mate. Go well and enjoy Jordan and Uzbekistan.
Great to see you, Goran. Thanks, mate.
My thanks to the one and only Jason Pine and the haircut Alex Paulsen, our guests today on the Kiwi Football Fix, which is taking a little bit of a breather. We've got the Winter Olympics out of Beijing. They're taking up a lot of our time here at Sky Sport. So the Kiwi Football Fix will take a little bit of a breather, and we'll be back in early March. March 3rd is when you can expect to see the next Kiwi Football Fix. So until then, enjoy your football and enjoy the Winter Olympics as well on Prime and Sky Sport. And we'll see you next time on The Fix.